Well, it's that time of the week again where we do my Premier League predictions. Now, I do these every week if you're new to this channel, and well, I like to see if I can guess any Premier League matches in the upcoming week. Now, as with every week, I will review my predictions from the week prior, see if I got any right. Spoiler alert, no. As with every video, we're going to start first by reacting and reviewing my game week 25 predictions. And we're going to start off with the Friday fixture of Fulham versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, I predicted 2-0 to Fulham, and it's actually just 1-0. Now, neither side were brilliant in this clash. Solomon did score a brilliant equaliser, but besides that, both sides were pretty good at the back, pretty strong. I mean, they both conceded a goal, but both sides got some brilliant defensive performances, so fair play. Then move on to Saturday's fixtures, and we start off with Everton versus Aston Villa. Now, I predicted 2-1 to Everton. It was actually 2-0 to Aston Villa. And while Everton did look like the better side in the first half, they just couldn't make it count. Villa sprung to life in the second half and absolutely destroyed Everton, really. It was not great for the Goodison boys. And then move on to Leicester versus Arsenal. Now, I predicted 3-2 to Arsenal. It's actually 1-0 to Arsenal. Despite a tight result, Arsenal were the dominant side throughout the match, with Leicester only managing one shot throughout that entire game. Arsenal continued to have a dominant performance against another side in the league and are honestly really staking their claim to that title this season. And then move on to West Ham United versus Nottingham Forest. I predicted 1-0 to Forest. It was 4-0 to West Ham, and Forest's awful away form continues, but this was another level. Absolutely dreadful from Forest, and a huge result from Moyes and the Hammers, who managed to cling on, well, not really by the skin of his teeth, as it was a short performance, but managed to cling on for a couple more games. And then move on to Leeds United versus Southampton. Now, I predicted 2-1 to Leeds. It was actually 1-0. This was a massive win for Leeds, as they were the more positive of the two teams and honestly were the one that deserved to get something out of this match. Firpo looked class as he scored the only goal of the match, and hopefully, for Leeds fans at least, they'll be hoping they can, start grabbing 3 points more regularly. Then move on to Bournemouth versus Manchester City. Now, I predicted 3-0 to Man City. It was actually 4-1, so I got the margin correct. But City were dominant once again as they smashed Bournemouth, with Haaland returning to his goal-scoring ways. The Cherries did manage to grab a consolation goal, but it was too little too late, as Man City were the dominant side throughout once again. And then move on to Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. And I predicted 2-1 to Liverpool. It was actually 0-0. Now, despite being dominant throughout most of the match, Liverpool could not score past the Eagles. Palace, on the other hand, did not register a shot on target and were once again lacklustre in attack. This kind of thing, it can really scupper a team's chances of survival if they don't start picking up points. But, I mean, a point here, a point there, can't really complain. Then move on to Sunday's fixture of Tottenham Hotspur versus Chelsea. And I predicted 3-1 to Tottenham. It was actually 2-0. And the bragging rights go with Tottenham in this London derby. Chelsea's sad form continues, and Potter has still not got them scoring goals. It's not looking good, Brev. It's not looking good. I don't know how much longer he has left, because despite Potter being backed, will they back him if he can't win? Chances are no. Then move on to Wednesday's fixtures, and we start off with Arsenal versus Everton. Now, I predicted 3-0 to Arsenal. It was actually 4-0. It was an absolute Arsenal demolition job, as the Gunners ran riot at the Emirates, destroying the Toffees. They got absolutely steamrolled, and they didn't look like scoring at any point in that match either. And finally, Liverpool versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. I predicted 2-1 to Liverpool, but it was actually 2-0. It looked like it would be a draw until the 73rd minute, as Liverpool opened the scoring and grabbed a really deserved win over Wolves. Wolves never really looked to threaten Liverpool, to be honest, and it was quite a solid win for Klopp's boys. So yeah, that was me looking back at my game week 25 predictions. As you can see, I didn't do well at all. We're going to start off with Manchester City versus Newcastle United. Now, this is a huge top of the table clash, as the faltering Magpies travel to Manchester to face the current champions of England. Now, Newcastle are fresh off of a Carabao Cup defeat to the other Manchester side, and will be looking to put that behind them. However, it's going to be a very tough clash to come out of on top. Manchester City's form hasn't been brilliant either, but they're looking better and will be looking to continue pressuring Arsenal for that top spot. They dropped points against Nottingham Forest, but roared back against Bournemouth, so, they are putting up a good, title race. It's not as tight as maybe they would have hoped, but they're still doing a good job. I'm going to say 2-1 to Manchester City. Top of the table clashes are normally cagey affairs, and we've seen some brilliant clashes between these two sides recently. I think City are just too good for Newcastle at the moment, who have dropped out of the top 4, and you know, they need to start winning matches if they want to stake a claim to Champions League football. Newcastle will look to make it tough for City, and I don't doubt that they will, but I do think City will just manage to overcome the Magpies. However, it's going to be a very tough match for both sides. If Man City aren't playing some of their best football, Newcastle could do something against them, but I think Man City have put that slide behind them, and they should be ready to challenge once again. And then move on to Chelsea versus Leeds United. Now this is another huge match. Huge for Leeds to further escape the clutches of the relegation zone, and huge for Chelsea is they actually need to grab a win. I don't know what Chelsea have to do to stop picking up points, and I'm not sure how Potter really has left. I mean, I've heard claims that they're considering De Zerbi as Potter's replacement at Chelsea, which is just hilarious. Leeds are really struggling too, sitting just above the relegation zone, and they really need to start picking points as they face real trouble of sliding back into the drop zone. They've not been playing some brilliant football recently. They sacked Marsh, of course, and brought in their new manager, but whether he can get them playing the football they need to survive is another question. Both teams are really in need of results, but I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. I think frustrations will continue for Chelsea. Leeds can play good football and do have a team capable of that and will likely cause problems for the pensioners. Chelsea's side is full of quality, but Potter just can't seem to get them playing well together. I can see the points being shared in London, with both teams managing to nick a goal, maybe. Potter needs to sort out their goal scoring problems before they can think about winning games though. I think the calls to sack Potter will only grow, and well, time will have to tell. Then move on to Arsenal versus Bournemouth. Top of the league faced almost bottom of the league, and you know what? I think the result is pretty much decided already. Bournemouth have not been having a great season, and since the World Cup, have only won one match. Yikes. They currently find themselves only 3 points from bottom, whereas Arsenal, on the other hand, they're currently sitting at the peak of the Premier League and having a brilliant season so far, sitting 5 points clear at the time of writing. After putting 4 past Villa and 1 past Leicester, Arsenal look like a much better side after their dip in form, and will be looking to keep themselves at the summit of the league. I'm going to say 3-0 to Arsenal. It's not looking good for Bournemouth as they travel to London, and I feel it will go much the same way as Bournemouth's match against City, with Bournemouth struggling to make an impact against the Gunners. Arsenal do have a squad full of talent and will be looking to brush aside the Cherries in their quest for the league title, and I think they will, to be honest. Then move on to Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. 11th face 12th as Crystal Palace travel to Birmingham. My condolences. Villa's form has been up and down recently, and it sees them sitting comfortably mid-table. Palace have been quite good at grabbing draws and sharing points in their recent matches, which also sees them just sitting below Villa in the middle of the table. Palace really need to start picking up wins there if they want to climb up the table, and hopefully, not get dragged into relegation scrap. It might happen still. There's still a chance it'll happen. I'm going to say 1-0. I think it'll be another draw masterclass from Palace. Villa can be a tough side to break down, but we've seen multiple sides do it to great effect. I think it'll be a close-knit match between these two mid-table sides. Palace don't have the firepower to score many goals against sides. They don't really have the firepower to score goals realistically, as we've seen in their recent performances, but they can be quite solid at the back. Whereas Villa do have multiple goal scorers, but aren't as great at the back, so it should be an even clash between the two. But I'm not saying it'll be a thriller by any means. And then we move on to Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United. Top half Brighton faced a West Ham side that sit 2 points above the relegation zone. The Hammers travel to Brighton full of confidence after an absolute demolition of Forest, whereas Brighton are coming off the back of a loss to fellow European hopefuls Fulham. West Ham will be looking to start a run of good form to surge up the table after a very lacklustre campaign up to this point. Brighton, on the other hand, have enjoyed far better fortunes in the league, and while their goals have somewhat dried up as of late, still play some good, free-flowing attacking football. I'm going to say 3-1 to Brighton. I think we'll see Brighton put their league loss to Fulham behind them with a very emphatic performance over strugglers from London. Results have not gone West Ham's way in recent clashes. Results have not really gone West Ham's way as of late, with that result over Forest being a real anomaly. I don't think we can really judge their performance from that one match. Brighton are a far better side than the Reds, and they play some really good football at the Amex. So it'll be very tough for West Ham, and I don't know if West Ham will be able to break them down as easily as they did Forest. And Brighton, they have a wealth of goal scorers at their disposal as well, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens, but I think Brighton should just have this in the bag. And then we move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Tottenham Hotspur. Wolves haven't fully been able to shake away from the relegation zone yet, and still find themselves floating around the drop zone. Spurs, on the other hand, look to cement their position in the top 4 after back-to-back wins over other London-based sides. It's going to be a really tough clash for both sides, as Wolves have grabbed some brilliant results at the Molineux, whereas Tottenham have been in good form recently, and we're hoping that continues in the West Midlands. I'm going to say 2-1 to Tottenham. I think the Londoners will take all 3 points in this clash. As mentioned, they're in good form, especially in the league at the moment, and will want to build on that momentum and further cement themselves in the top 4. Wolves desperately need to stop picking up points to stave off relegation, but I can't see that happening here. And then we move on to Southampton versus Leicester City. The struggling Saints host a resurgent Leicester side in what will be another huge match for Southampton. Leicester themselves have slowly been climbing up the table, currently sitting in 14th. They'll be looking to put a poor patch of results behind them, and Southampton currently look like the perfect side to do that against. Again, Southampton have been very poor this season, currently on their 3rd manager of the campaign, and still mad in the relegation zone. They also got knocked out of the FA Cup to Grimsby Town, who are in League 2. Here's what it is. I'm going to say 2-0 to Leicester City. I don't really see Southampton troubling Leicester, even at St Mary's. They've been a poor side this season, and despite some shock results here and there, they haven't been able to build a sustained run of wins, which is what you'd be looking to do if you want to survive. Leicester, on the other hand, are playing some good football and have been able to grab much needed wins along the way. I can't really see Southampton doing much this match. I think Leicester will just have a pretty easy time at St Mary's. And then we move on to Nottingham Forest versus Everton. Now this is another huge match for both sides, as it's another huge relegation 6-pointer. Forest are coming off an awful performance in London, whereas Everton are coming off a battering at home. Forest's form at home is much better than their away form, but we are facing Dyche, who has been at many Forest games this season, and will have a very comprehensive plan of how to stop us. Everton's form away from home though isn't great either, so that offers some hope for the Reds. It'll be a very tough match for both sides, there's no doubt about that, but I think Forest will be able to grind out a 1-0 win. I think, a 1-0 win is very achievable. Comparing the two sides, we've looked at like the side that would score more than Everton, and I think that'll come into our favour at the City ground. But as I've said, Dyche knows how we play, so it will take some out-of-the-box thinking from Cooper to out Everton. But Cooper is a brilliant manager, and I know he's got in the tank to do that. Dyche does build a good defensive side, but we have potent attackers in our ranks who should be able to cup all 3 points in Nottingham. Could be the return of Jimmy Garner as well, so we should just never let him leave. I miss you, Jimmy. Now Liverpool versus Manchester United. Now this is a massive clash, as a resurgent Liverpool host high-flying Manchester United. Liverpool have stormed up the table recently and currently find themselves in 6th place. Manchester United have had a good season too, beating Newcastle at Wembley to win the Carabao Cup recently. It's a very big match for both sides, as Liverpool will be looking to secure another season of Champions League football, and Manchester United will be looking to return to the Champions League after being absent for a couple of seasons. Liverpool look to have turned around this season and begun marching up the table, but United may prove a stumbling block at Anfield. I'm going to say 3-2 to Manchester United. I reckon this will be a good match, but I suspect United will just grab a win. They're in a brilliant run of form at the moment, and it will take something special to stop them, and I'm not sure Liverpool currently have that in their ranks. Liverpool are still dealing with quite a few injuries at the moment, so still aren't at full strength or at the top of their game, but many important players have returned, so they look better than they have. However, it's not their strongest side. It'll be a really tough clash, but I just see United scraping all 3 points, to be honest. And finally, Brentford versus Fulham. We end this game week with a London derby as Brentford host high-flying Fulham. The Bees have been enjoying a decent campaign this season and currently find themselves sitting in 9th. Whereas, Fulham, they're doing brilliant this season, fully in contention for European football. Brentford could be without their star striker, as Ivan Toney pleaded guilty to his betting charges. What are the odds? So I'm not sure what his situation will be, whether he'll play or not. Brentford can score without him, but he is a very important player for them either way, so they'd really want him back if he, couldn't play football for any reason. Fulham's star striker has returned as well. Mitrovic, he was in their cup clash against Leeds last week. He assisted as well, so I do think it'll be a very tough clash of both sides though. I'm going to say 1-0 to Fulham. I think Fulham will grab another tight victory here. They've been in some good form since football returned, and I think that will continue against Brentford. Brentford's form has taken a dip recently, and Fulham will be looking to exploit that, and I think they have the squad to do it. It'll be a very interesting match to watch, but I think Fulham just have the edge in this match. And there you have it, my Game Week 26 Premier League predictions. Hopefully I get at least one result right, but realistically, that's not looking likely. But hey, if there's any match I could get right, it would be Forest grabbing a result against Everton, because Lord knows we need it. Anyway, I've been O2GT, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please do leave a like, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.